preparing to invade Russia. Well, so we're in a scenario in which America and Russia are gone to war, right? Well, Russia's in trouble because they're fighting in Ukraine with most of their forces, and now America is sending its forces here. Well, realistically, here and here. This is pretty close. They wouldn't go like that. Although it looks like they are on this map, but that's not what they're doing. More accurately, that's also not what they're doing. Flat maps are not good for Russia and America going to war. With America asking South Korea and not North Korea, why am I saying North Korea? South Korea and Japan if they will support them. Which means give them access to their naval docks. Well, this isn't good. With American troops arriving in these two countries quickly, being sent from Alaska and California. And look, there's even Russian lands that didn't get colored yet. But now let's get to the American forces. Who make 3 offensives. One up over here, which is a success as Russia's still trying to get its troops over here. One in Japan, which arrives here. And well, they also go up the Kuril Islands, the Americans, and get here. With one of their first offensives finishing, it was the Sakhalin offensive, so now they land on mainland Russia. With Russian troops trying to get over, but they're struggling with the war in Ukraine. So they're kind of in trouble with America. The 3 offensives still ongoing. With Russia starting to move troops, they start seeing Ukraine have victories, like in the south, over here, and continue their offensive into them. Eventually, they decide to have a ceasefire. And while in the ceasefire, Russia decides they will withdraw to the Donbass region legitimately. They decide to withdraw to here for the ceasefire to go ahead, which Ukraine's okay with as they start negotiating with the US for entrance into this war when the time comes. But the US says for now, just stay neutral. And they agree. Well, Russia starts sending hundreds of thousands, even 1 million troops over here. So America decides they need to take Valvlista. So they land near the city over here and they cut it off from the rest of Russia. And they set up a naval blockade there. With them moving this offensive to meet up with that one, so they encircle this. And well, now they've taken some better territory to fight with. And the Americans decide to push them back here, as their northern offensive is starting to stall out. Just because of terrain, I guess. With them managing to connect these two fronts, with the Russian troops starting to arrive. Although they only slow down the offensive, they don't really stop it. With China probably disliking this. But what can they really realistically do? With America seeing Belarus join Russia's side, so they're like, well, once Belarus starts sending forces away, they ask Ukraine to join into the war a few weeks after when Belarusian forces arrive at the American front line. With Ukraine entering quickly, and only 100,000 troops in this area, well, Ukraine has 300,000. And well, Ukraine quickly crosses the border into Belarus, launching a surprise offensive. Quickly moving towards Minsk, which they encircle, as the Belarusian troops for the most part are gone away. With Belarus sending its troops back, but at this point it's kind of too late. And well, Belarus is forced into surrender. So Ukraine launches its second offensive into the south, cutting off to the Donbass region. Well, right now they realize their best spot to make an offensive is in the north. And they make one towards Belgorod and one towards Kursk, and quickly connect this to the Belarusian front. And Poland is offered Kaliningrad if they join, which is an offer they can't say no to. I guess, and parts of Belarus, with these two nations actually joining. With Canada joining just because America makes them, and they're pretty much going to do what America says. America says they will stop defending Canada if Canada doesn't join, which is kind of pointless because Canada's military is really weak. I don't even think it's 100,000 people. And its population similar to Ukraine. But then again, Ukraine's also more willing. With Canada now in the war, that's really good. And Australia decides to join. And who knows why? Because Australia is Australia. And New Zealand joins because we like New Zealand. And Japan decides to join, but South Korea stays out, knowing that, well, they will likely be attacked by North Korea. And they don't want to be bringing more nations in. And, well, they start moving down the coast to try to hook the two fronts up. With 1,000,000 Russian troops here still struggling to launch counterattacks. And, well, that's a problem, because Russia is now really in trouble. With Finland deciding to join to try and take St. Petersburg with the help of American forces, which send about 50,000 forces to help Finland out. And Finland breaks through the front line and even manages to encircle St. Petersburg slightly with the help of the Ukrainian and Polish forces, making it into more of a success. With Russia in a losing battle, but they decide not to surrender. With American forces arriving in Poland and Ukraine now, and they decide to push Russia out of Ukraine, and then they decide to launch an offensive into the Caucasus from Crimea and from the Donbass region. And these two fronts quickly connect. Meanwhile, Belarus is collapsing. Well, during this time, they start an offensive into the Caucasus towards the Caucasian Mountains, which they manage to get north of, but then the terrain becomes unfeasible to continue. So this land eventually surrenders. And well, in the west, it doesn't look good, and in the east, it looks just as bad. With a lot of the forces struggling, because now they have to split the 2,000,000 forces they have at this point on two fronts, which are two losing battles. With the Russian people upset at this, as you guess, with them going towards some cities along this area, which the Americans basically are all ready to hear. With Russia in trouble, with American forces now using two fronts to attack on. And well, the Ukrainian forces continue the offensive along with the Americans as they take Volgorod. Two major Russian cities have fallen, with Russia managing to hold a stalemate at this point on this front, but the eastern front, well, it's failing. With them moving by Lake Blakia. I don't know how to say it, so I'm not going to even try. And well, they move past this lake. And well, Russia's trying to hold them back. They know they're not going north because it's too cold. With American forces, look how close they're getting to the rest of the front. With Russia managing to stop them and push them back to about, with them withdrawing from here quickly. With Russia now in a better spot on that front, but Russia knows they can't win, I would assume. But they're probably crazy enough to continue fighting, I would say. And well, they do continue fighting, even though Moscow is literally threatened. With the full front starting to look bad, and with the encirclement of Russia, its capital, Moscow, Russia continues fighting. Because they think they can win, apparently. And no, this is not a Stalin joke. But they apparently think they can win. How can he be all the way back here and still fighting? Like in the Arctic fight? Well, they're probably needing to get through these cities down the coast to get Russia to give up. With eventually this is the front and Russia decides to surrender, which would be a harsh treaty, I would assume. So let's see how the treaty goes. Or you could call it West Alaska. No, it would be West Alaska. Technically, it's east, but it's also west. Wait, everywhere is east and west. So, I'd say we'd probably call it east because in the eastern hemisphere. But they could call it anything. And Japan gained lands, and then a puppet was made here, Siberia. A puppet of St. Petersburg, and a puppet of the rest. With Dagestan, Chechnya, Yakutsk, Nosaka, and Tartarstan all gaining their independence. With the Caucasian state being created, and this is where Russia is with Putin. That's Putin's Russia there. He's still in charge. He's just in the middle of nowhere. Not like the Dagestan. Why am I saying random stuff? But that's pretty much all for today's video. Please like, subscribe, and comment. Wild Mapper out, but not until you subscribe. Bye, guys!